Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Jar of Marble dwellers and Jar of Marble curious. I'm glad that you're here. My name is Linda and this is Jar of Marbles. This week I wanted to talk a little bit about narcissists and toe jam. When we read about gaslighting or talk about it, it usually is in the context of relationships, including families and workplaces. I did a bit of research after realising I have actually gaslit myself and I've witnessed it in others close to me, that is, gaslighting themselves. Gaslighting is a manipulative tactic used by narcissists to make others doubt their sanity and correctness, if you will. Narcissists are motivated to protect their ego, beliefs and position of power. Some gaslighters are aware of their behaviour and may even work to improve their gaslighting skills, while others might not even be aware that they're doing it. Narcissists can be controlling and intolerant while refusing to admit to wrongdoings. Am I a narcissist? No, Bob, you're not. You're one okay dude. Oh, thanks. As we know, gaslighting can have a devastating effect on your mental health, and you could be doing the bully's job for them long after they're not even in your life. I don't know if you even know that. It got me thinking and wondered if I should ask the question, are you gaslighting yourself? Turns out it's a thing, marble dwellers. A marble dweller requested this subject and it was agreed that I could add toe jam for good measure. Just seemed to fit. Most people who have suffered at the hands of gaslighters are probably more prone to doing it to themselves. I think the lingo, we recognise the language, the tone, the wording, the damage that gaslighters or fart brighteners lasts long after they're not in your lives until some work is done. Recognition that it's them and not you. We can then take over from the abuser and start berefting ourselves in our heads without even realising it. How do you know I'm not a narcissist? Because a narcissist wouldn't ask or care if they were. Gaslighting is when we pick up the torch from the gaslighter, we internalise their abuse. This is self-gaslighters, that is. We internalise their abuse or lack of protection from it and begin to gaslight ourselves. As discussed with others who have realised that they were gaslighting themselves, it showed up by not doing any of the things they loved anymore because the narcissists had kept them so busy with their requests and all the obligation that comes with it. If you insist on doing everything they tell you to do or believe the malarkey that they would have you believe, this is where the downhill spiral begins and hopefully is recognised and ends there. Does any of this sound familiar?
Oh, I get it.
How do you get it?
Well, people tell me I'm an egotistical narcissist. I don't know what that means, but it doesn't matter because I'm the smartest, handsomest, coolest guy who has ever lived.
Oh, you're definitely on the right path there, Bob.
I was joking, though.
I know, Bob, and a great example. Thank you. It is quite the moment when you realise, hey, wait a minute, I'm talking to myself like how he or she did. I'm disrespecting myself as they did. I am doing way too much, being targeted like rubbish, being told how things are going to go. We realise that we have literally taken over their job of being a class A butthole to ourselves. So let's just back up a minute.
Please do. I'm starting to feel a bit nervous.
No, it's okay, Bob. Truly, it's okay.
Okay.
This week's episode is a request for me to talk about narcissists, so I had a wee think about it, and after a chat with said requestee, who wishes to remain anonymous, it looked like the narcissists in her life, and let me tell you, they're pretty hardcore. We agreed that she had taken the baton from them and was continuing to live as though they were in the room belting out their orders, including making sure that she was feeling fairly ordinary about herself. The only way they can get away with it, continue on, is if she feels really truly bad about herself, then it breaks down to her not looking after herself, always being sick, but pushing through so as to not let down the narcissist. Meanwhile, her health just keeps on getting worse. That's right. And what's scary is she doesn't see the connection. She says she does, but she doesn't. And how I know she doesn't is because she's not saving herself. She's not treating herself first. She's not doing all the things that she loves. She's not treating herself as the most important person and job that she has. She was gaslighting herself and didn't realise it. She had been in a toxic situation for so long that a bad day was now a good day because the truly intolerable days were most of the time. How does this happen? If we look at it with a pragmatic eye, I think it is easier to see and understand if you step right away long enough, and therefore extracting yourself from someone else's poor behaviour and realising that you feel like rubbish because you've been around rubbish people and probably for a long time, making excuses for their poor behaviour. That runs really old after a while, and doing far more than is expected to the point that it is normalised for you to do far more than is reasonable. I am loosely describing the requestee for the purpose of the subject. Narcissists are masters of illusion. They play the poor abused victim while in truth they are wreaking havoc by torturing, mistreating and abusing those that they fooled into loving them. This quote by Y. Clairabout. The term gaslighting has become very popular recently, hasn't it? It refers to the act of undermining someone's emotions or reality. It's making someone believe that everything they're going through is all in their head and isn't really happening to the extent that they perceive everything around them in an untrue fashion. I think that good folk have a hard time believing that people could actually be this calculating. But sooner or later, just go with the notion that it is true and see how much better you feel by being right out of their orbit. And yes, definitely worth a bit of an applause. Oh, yes, good. Thank you. How does gaslighting harm you, you may ask? Well, gaslighting takes away your ability to fully understand yourself, your own needs, and your desires. Gaslighting stops you from making positive change in your life. If you don't believe the bad things are happening, you won't try to change it. That's a slippery slope, that one. Gaslighting ruins your self-confidence and makes you feel like you don't deserve more, even if it's not a conscious thought. You just sort of think, oh, well, this is the best I can hope for. And before you know it, you've fallen into a bit of a gaslit victim mode, I guess you could say. Recognising self-gaslighting can be hard because it's a mindset that you may consider normal. But if you find yourself performing the following very frequently, then this is a problem, something that you might need to consider dealing with. You minimise your thoughts and feelings. Oh, it's not that bad. I'm overreacting. If this is your first instinct to tell yourself that your feelings are wrong or too emotional, often people see this as a way of being strong or resilient. I'm not mad, they say, when something is clearly affecting their nerves. No matter what your feelings are, you should always take the time to fully understand why it may be bothering you at the current level. Not doing so is practicing emotional abuse to yourself. Another one is you doubt yourself. I'd really like to do this, but I've never been, the smartest person in the room. It's probably a dumb idea. Do you constantly undermine your wishes and decisions? Thinking that your ideas are always dumb is one way to accomplish this. If you frequently believe that your ideas are not worth listening to and your decisions are probably wrong, you may be self-gaslighting. Another one, and this is a beauty, you doubt your memories. Someone who knows you well will remember what has transpired in the past, and you find you have no memory, and you hear yourself asking, really? They have no memory of what has gone on before. They will often think that things have only been rough for a few months, when in reality it has been years. They will genuinely not remember. You can see the deadness, the confusion in their eyes, and they won't be able to hear you. Instead, we can deny our reality, which robbed us of an opportunity to understand ourselves and our decisions. Another is you always find a way to blame yourself or blame someone else. There must be something I'm doing wrong to cause this, or this wouldn't be happening if he didn't marry her or if she didn't marry him. I never raised my kids to be like this. They're now high-functioning, entitled adults hitting 40. Sometimes we have raised our kids to be exactly like this, albeit not intentionally, but if you overlooked and gave and gave, and you think that that is okay as they disrespect you over and over again, yes, you will have played a role, be it under duress or believing you were doing the right thing. It certainly can factor in. Do you constantly look for a reason why you are the cause of something external to you? We are all capable of changing our circumstances, but we're not always the cause of our present circumstances. If you find yourself reaching to explain why you are the cause of person X acting this way or company Z having a certain kind of culture, then you are self-gaslighting. These things are out of your control, but they're not your fault. You cannot control the narcissistic person in your life, so you can't blame yourself for the way they're acting. By blaming yourself, you take away the actions you can control, such as distancing yourself from the person or the company or the people. I think it is important to confirm that a full-blown narcissist is never going to admit that they are a narcissist or that they're wrong. So if you're waiting for them to realise that, never going to happen. They could see it painted in the sky, "You are a narcissist," and they would not think it is about them in a month of Sundays. They probably don't even know what a narc is. If it doesn't make them look good, then they're definitely not going to be interested on any level, ever. So the next question has to be how to stop. If you're listening to this and you've made it this far and you're recognising these traits in you, you might need to nip them in the bud. Gaslighting strips you of your ability to pursue your happiness and achieve your goals. You can seek out a counsellor to help you work through these issues, but here are some tips to help you on your way. Understand its origins. You need to understand where this problem originates from. Maybe you can recognise some traits in a way that your parents raised you. Maybe it's how you raised your kids. Maybe you have some issues with anxiety and this has been your coping mechanism. By understanding the origins, you can better block out gaslighting thoughts when they start to come to you in real time. I also did a bit of reading about performing affirmations and the importance of telling ourselves really kind thoughts instead of having your head filled with negative, harmful thinking. When you recognise self-gaslighting thoughts starting to flare up, try going through, say, some of the following affirmations. All of my emotions are valid and I have the right to feel them. I know what is happening to me and how it makes me feel. I know what circumstances are within my control and what things are not. I have the right to pursue my happiness. Now, like anything new, it will feel weird saying these things, but maybe it won't. But if you're a desperado marble dweller like me, I will say whatever I've got to say to feel better. Like I say sometimes, actually all the time to myself, you've got to talk to the expert. That would be you, and say whatever kind things you can to interrupt the bullshit that you've endured from being around dangerous people. And I say dangerous people because if you are gaslighting yourself or have, then you'll know what these sorts of people are capable of. You've got to cut them off at the pass, marble dwellers. That's bloody right. Okay, here we go. Oh, yes. Yes, good. Now repeat these to yourself until you start to believe them each more, a little bit more every day. I wish we could all pursue our goals with no hindrance. Self-gaslighting is a strangling vine in our lives that needs to be cut down and burned. Let this be another step in our journey of self-care, which always brings us back to self-care. When we've been living away for a long time, it is as natural as the breath we breathe and we fail to see anything's wrong with it. When you are not recognising the link between being volcanically angry, unwell to the point of looking like you're on death's door, that is a sign that you are an expert at gaslighting yourself. Self-care, the words could be a kind of petrol you pour into your car. It has no intrinsic meaning or value. First of all, it has the word self in it. And where is your good self? Where are you? What makes you happy? Can you answer any of these questions with energy and self-respect? Then there's the word care. The word care, it's the same thing really, isn't it? The questions that we just asked before, where are you? Where are you in your life? What makes you happy? Survival of the beautiful hearts. That's my interest in seeing these beautiful hearted souls that are dragged through sewerage because they want to help. Self-care is not selfish. Unconditional love does not mean unconditional tolerance. That's a quote from a Dr. Caroline Leaf. Her stuff is amazing, Dr. Caroline Leaf. Tolerance is enablement. Unconditional love includes boundaries. When those boundaries are honoured, the person is trusted, and then love can continue to be cultivated and matured. Love them, don't enable them.
Toe jam could be used as a weapon.
Oh, for sure, Bob. I have actually used it as a weapon before.
Oh, do I really want to know this?
What causes toe jam, you may ask?
But I didn't.
Shush, Bob. Toe jam has many causes, including dry skin and less than perfect hygiene. This condition is usually benign, but in some instances can cause serious complications. You can see the link between narcissists and toe jam, can't you? Yes. And while it can be benign and harmless, if let out of their box, they can cause serious complications. So sort your toe jam, because narcissists, the word is one that I'm tired of hearing about, but toe jam is far more fitting. Wouldn't it be great if you could just get a cream and dismantle, deconstruct the narcissists and put them back in their box and post them to Indonesia or a place of choice, really? And many years ago, my sister and I were playing jokes on one another, and I decided to use some freshly scooped toe jam as my instrument of mass destruction. Now, doesn't that sound awful?
It really sounds terrible, actually.
Excellent. Anywho, the story. I swiped some top quality toe jam and I put it on my inner wrist, and you know where you put perfume on. Well, I told my sister that I just bought this delish perfume, how about a sniff? To which she complied, took a dreamy deep sniff and nearly vomited. I think dry reaching was really the thing actually, but the good bit was some of the toe jam actually got onto her nose, and no matter how much she washed her face, she couldn't get rid of the stench. But I ask you, who would do such a thing?
A bloody genius, if you ask me.
Ah, yes, for sure. And the other question would be, any regrets? Now, after all these years and much has occurred, I can laugh with glee. Thank you. And say, no regrets. Anyway, sometimes in life, you've got to ask yourself, what is the point of regret? Okay, so moving on, #narcissists and toe jam. Baby steps with everything we learn and what we are attempting to get past or survive, or maybe both. Our body is in the moment. We take each breath in the moment, and our heart beats along with us in the moment. Life isn't over there. It's not on the other side of tonight. This is it, marble dwellers. Life is, as you know, it isn't always safe, good or normal all the time. It can be tough and it can be threatening. Life is also miraculous, lovely and full of wonder. If you choose to see it that way, then it is all of that wrapped up in a cute little bow. It is bright and it is dark. It is less than and it is abundant. Times when there are no answers, well, none that we like. And times when inspiration is in every sight and every breath. The simple awareness of your own heartbeat keeps you right here in your present where you are living your life. I love painting, a very late discovery in my life. I mention this in case you are on the verge of discovery or denying that you have anything to discover. Anywho, as I mix my paints, I think lightly about the colours, the good, the bad, the unthinkable, the joyous, each creating a unique work of art for every person. Such a grounding activity, and aside singing, painting is the singular thing that completely calms me to a point of delicious calm. We can all learn, we can all be more loving, and particularly to ourselves, and feel more joyful. Creating personal prisons for ourselves can be the outcome of living with a narcissist for too long. The marble dweller who requested this subject told me that if she spends any time away from her husband, a small break with the girl, she is bombarded with suggestions of infidelity, which is definitely not the case. He reads a mail and takes praise for her accomplishments. These are but a few examples, but after having a good chat, it turned out that she had enabled the behaviour by ignoring it and not realising how out of control it had become. Especially once the kids had left home, she had signed over her voice to him without even knowing it. She was so busy with work and out-of-home activities, she simply found it easier just to let him harass her because she knew he'd eventually run out of wind and then she could go to sleep in her own room. What else came to the surface was that she was no longer doing her thing, doing things she loved, like reading. She's someone I've never known anyone that read as much as she did. But, it was just one day I asked her, do you still read? And she went, oh, no. And apparently it had been like that for years. She always also loves lying in the sun reading, swimming and having baths. And all of these activities had gone. She had matched the outer misery and was living it out from her insides. Again, self-care is not selfish. Hashtag Narcissists and Toe Jam. You only live once, and if you do it right, once is enough. Quote by Mae West. Yes, Mae, you've got that in one. And this one by Steve Jobs. Your time is limited. So don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. It's not particularly subject related, but I love this quote from Kevin Hart. Everybody wants to be famous, but nobody wants to do the work. I live by that. You grind hard so you can play hard. At the end of the day, you put all the work in and eventually it'll pay off. It could be in a year. It could be in 30 years. Eventually, your hard work will pay off. I just found it really encouraging and uplifting. It raises me way above, and I hope it raises you way above others' nonsense. Your headspace has to be about your life, your dreams and plans. We've been sold the malarkey that you have to lay down and take all the BS from people, family included, in the name of family. Yeah, no, I do not think so. Not today or any other day. So very important to get your toe jam sorted and look to live your life in a way that inspires you, because if things are ever going to improve, then you'll be a full expression of yourself instead of a wizened up old potato with a pair of shoes on. Oh, that's right. Oh, Bob.
Oh, I've got a joke.
Well, come on then, let's have it.
How many narcissists does it take to change a light bulb?
Tell me.
Just one. All he has to do is hold it in place while the world revolves around him.
Oh, God, that was good, Bob. You've got it, Bobby boy. That is so bang on. And it would be kind of funny if it wasn't actually true.
I've got one, Bob.
I've got one, Bob. How many narcissists does it take to change a light bulb? Narcissists don't use light bulbs. They use gaslighting. Oh, I know.
I'm a paranoid narcissist. I'm afraid no one's out to get me.
You've so got this, Bob. And before we get too carried away with ding-dong jokes, I wanted to take this opportunity for the request of the subject. I hope I did it justice for the listener, because it is quite the subject and a half, isn't it? That's for sure. Look, I've just had a look from the producer and it looks like it is time to go. Thank you as always for coming by, and hope your week has been and will be a lovely one. Say good day to the family for me and give your blue whale a little wave, and I'll see you next time, okay?
Bye, 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 bye.